Oh, the Secret Service, they just cleared out the entire front lawn of the north lawn, rather, of the White House. The press was all, the press, they hang out there. They hang out on the front lawn. Secret Service agents ran out to the north lawn of the White House, and they demanded that everybody get into the press briefing room.
Press briefing room. This area is closed. Press briefing room.
There they go. They're dismantling their cameras. They're picking up their podiums. They're walking over saying, what's going on? And then the guy's on the phone going, all right, so now all the reporters that are set up there on the north lawn, ready to do their hits, ready to talk about whatever it is that they're talking about. They're all now rushed into the press briefing room, and we don't know why. We don't have any explanation yet as to why, but something went down at the White House. There was some kind of security issue, and all of the press had to go inside to the press briefing room, which is much smaller than the north lawn. So we'll see what happens. I haven't had any information other than that. All I've seen so far is the one video of the guy coming out and saying what's going on. So I'm thinking to myself, well, there's something on the north lawn that they don't want the press to see. And what is it that they don't want the press to see at the White House these days? Clearly, it's the Jeffrey Epstein files. So somebody dropped the Epstein files on the north lawn of the White House, and they had to get the press out of there ASAP, as soon as humanly possible. And that's the only explanation I've been able to come up with for myself. Because look, the Epstein files is not going away. This is the thing that's not going away. This is the issue that, I'm not saying it's the downfall. Some people are very serious. Some people are like, this is the downfall of blah, 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 blah. And nothing like, it ain't that deep, but it's still definitely going to be an issue that Donald Trump and his supporters are going to be coming to grips with, because Donald Trump's supporters want to know what happened with the Epstein files. They want to know why the Epstein files, which were promised to them when they voted for President Donald Trump, still have not been made public, and why Donald Trump is downplaying the Epstein files and their importance to, not just justice, but also to draining the swamp. I mean, remember, draining the swamp was the thing. Draining the swamp was what we all wanted to do. Draining the swamp was the goal. It was to get rid of the corruption and the deep state and all of those elitists who take advantage of the system. And we know that they were all part of Jeffrey Epstein's client list. So if we know that they were part of Jeffrey Epstein's client list, and they know that they were part of Jeffrey Epstein's client list, then we want to see them. And that's something that's not going away. And look, and I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one that's saying it's not going away. There's a bunch of people out there. Benny Johnson was like, look, bring Ghislaine Maxwell out to testify.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ghislaine Maxwell is ready to testify. The way to put the dog down is take her out of her cell, put her in front of the American people, and say, yo, what was this exactly? Since you were there and all the firsthand witnesses seem to be dying of mysterious circumstances, including but not limited to Virginia Roberts, who was just killed before this. Why do I say killed? She's the premier witness.
Anyway, you get the deal. You get the gist. So the only way to put the dog down is with answers, and the only answers we're going to get is from Ghislaine Maxwell. And this is good and bad news for Ghislaine Maxwell. First of all, it puts her back into the spotlight, and she's, of course, serving a 40-year term. But if there's no blackmail, if there's no victims, if there's no Jeffrey Epstein client list, she may be able to maybe get reduced charges or a second hearing or God knows what. The bad news for her is that she's now the only person alive who can really talk about what was on the Epstein list, or the most, maybe not the only person alive. I mean, there's a lot of people on the Epstein list who are alive who I'm sure don't want to talk about it, but she's the only one who could still blow the lid off of this very easily, and that puts her life in jeopardy. If I were her, I'd be demanding some extra security, but not like the Hillary Clinton kind of extra security, like real extra security, because you never know what's going to happen to anybody who's involved in this Jeffrey Epstein scandal. And it seems to be something, again, that just will not go away. It will not die. It continues to haunt the Trump administration. There were reports that President Donald Trump's staff, or somebody at the FBI, I guess, was reaching out to bloggers and newscasters and other folks who've been talking about it and telling them, hey, you better shut up or you're going to lose access to the president. That was the rumor. That has not been confirmed, but there were a couple of instances yesterday that made us scratch our heads and question if maybe that rumor was indeed true. Dinesh D'Souza on his podcast said the following.
I'm going to talk about the Epstein Files, and I'm going to make the case that even though there are unanswered questions about Epstein, it is in fact time to move on. Part of being on a political team is maintaining a certain amount of maturity, recognizing you can't win them all, recognizing there are some things that are important to you that are less important to the guy that you've put in charge, who is trying to focus on things right in front of him. And so having a sense of perspective, having a sense of balance, having a sense of maturity, I think is more important even than getting to the bottom of what really happened with Jeffrey Epstein.
Okay, now I'm going to disagree with him on several counts. First of all, I don't think maturity has any place in politics. I don't know if he's seen the Democrats lately. I don't know if he's familiar with Jasmine Crockett or Maxwell Frost or even someone like Alex Padilla. I don't know if he's familiar with how it works in government, but maturity, you don't give up on a fight. You don't give up on finding the truth because you don't want to look immature. Look as immature as you want. I've never been a big fan of looking mature. Immaturity has been a skill set that has served me well my entire life. And if it means continuing to get to the bottom of something, then by all means, throw maturity out the window. We were supposed to have Dinesh on the show before July 4th, but we weren't able to make that happen because of his travel schedule, my travel schedule. I'll try to get him back on here in the next couple days. Maybe we can have a conversation about that, even though he seems ready to chalk it up to, we got to move on. We can't win them all. We have to be mature about this. Dinesh D'Souza, by the way, also a great guy and a patriot. He does, however, owe a debt to President Donald Trump because remember, President Donald Trump did pardon him. And if it weren't for President Donald Trump, he wouldn't be free to podcast or to make movies or to make money or to do any of those things. So we'll see if we'll ask him. We'll say, did anyone from the White House or anyone from the FBI reach out to you and ask you to downplay it? Another surprising comment came yesterday from Charlie Kirk, although this one was taken totally out of context. Charlie Kirk from TPUSA, Charlie Kirk, who is one of the largest Trump supporters, whose organization, Turning Point USA, I would say single-handedly changed the outcome of the election. The youth vote, the number of votes that he was able to get for President Donald Trump from young voters, millennial voters, Gen Z voters, the amount of Christian conservatives he's been able to just basically create out of thin air and inspire to go out there and become politically active has been nothing short of miraculous. And when you go to one of these events, when you see what he's done, you know that he has political impact. And he has a lot of high-profile political friends. And at TPUSA over the weekend, that's when Megyn Kelly and Charlie Kirk sat down and they discussed what was going on. In fact, I'll play this was just, let's see, Friday, Saturday. This was like 4 days ago. This was 4 days ago. This was Megyn Kelly talking to Charlie Kirk at TPUSA.
Make some noise if you care about the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. Jeffrey Epstein's not the most important thing on his agenda by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, he's crushing it on the tariffs. Foreign policy, just got nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. If not Trump, then who? Honestly. Barack Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize after 9 months in office. He had done nothing. He gave a nice speech about Muslims and they gave it to him. So President Trump should be getting the Nobel Peace Prize, and there's all sorts of things he's focused on. I just don't think this has captured his attention quite yet. But it needs to, because it's starting to create a real hornet's nest within the administration. And I've got to be honest, I blame Pam Bondi. I have nothing against Pam Bondi as a human being. I was fine with her nomination and her confirmation, and she's been loyal to the president. And I get that President Trump needs a loyal attorney general. Look what happened with Sessions the first time. He went away, and then the next thing you know, we had the Mueller investigation, and it was a nightmare. But there are a lot of other people who can be loyal and competent in that job. Here, she is the reason that things are unraveling around this story right now that virtually all of the Republican Party cares deeply about.
Yeah, and that is something that happened just this past weekend. Well, yesterday on Charlie Kirk's show, he said this, and well, this isn't all he said, but this was the clip that was making the rounds yesterday after Charlie Kirk's broadcast.
Honestly, I'm done talking about Epstein for the time being. I'm going to trust my friends in the administration. I'm going to trust my friends in the government to do what needs to be done, solve it, balls in their hands. I've said plenty this last weekend. So if you guys want to see my commentary on it, that's fine.
Now, I would like to point out he said balls in their hands, right? Which I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure he meant balls in their court, but he said balls in their hands.
Honestly, I'm done talking about Epstein for the time being. I'm going to trust my friends in the administration. I'm going to trust my friends in the government to do what needs to be done, solve it, balls in their hands. I've said plenty
understand
this last
that
weekend.
it's without
So if you guys want to see
cross-examination,
my commentary on it,
but
that's fine.
Yeah, balls in their balls in their. I'm pretty sure he meant balls in their court, but maybe he meant balls in their hands. Who knows? You know what? I'm not here to argue semantics. I've messed up words before. I've said the wrong thing when I meant to say something else. Some guy just complained on my YouTube that I screw up something every single show. So I'm not even gonna bring that up. But I will say this: Charlie Kirk's words were taken out of context, and the entire quote he posted later on his X, which I will read to you now because that is the right thing to do. He wrote, the video cut short the actual commentary. Plenty was said this last weekend about our event about Epstein. Honestly, I'm done talking about Epstein for the time being. I'm going to trust my friends in the administration. I'm going to trust my friends in the government to do what needs to be done, solve it. Balls in their hands. Okay, so he did say that. Anyway, but let me just say this again. Everyone knows my opinion about the Epstein thing, the messaging fumble. I would love to see the DOJ move to unseal the grand jury testimony. I think that would be a big win. I would love to see that. And I'm going to trust my friends, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, my friend Pam Bondi, all these guys. Todd Blanche, I'm going to trust them to solve it. Balls in their court. Oh, he got it right that time. I think that there was plenty of, let's say, speeches that were directed toward this topic this last weekend. And he's talking again about what happened at TPUSA. And he's right. There were a lot of speeches directed at that. He didn't censor anybody. He didn't stop anyone from talking about it. And when he came out this morning, he said, look, what I meant was I'm not going to talk about it today because there's a lot of other stuff to talk about. But this is the really interesting thing. And this is why this story is going to continue to haunt Donald Trump and the administration, because this is a story that every single MAGA voter, that every single Donald Trump voter, that every single Donald Trump supporter feels so strongly about and has such a visceral reaction to, because this was really, of all the issues, the border, very important that we had a secure border, very important that we got rid of the illegal immigrants, very important that we get with the massive deportation effort, Tom Homan and ICE agents rounding these people up and sending them back home, very important, super important, one of the most important things we can do. Fixing the economy, man, that's important. We got to get our jobs back. We got to get our prices down. We got to slash those taxes. We got to make sure that we are economically viable. Inflation is a mess. Nobody can afford a home. Bring on the new golden age. Let's do this thing. Oh, tariffs, we're all about it. Whatever Donald Trump's economic plan for future prosperity here in the United States of America and to make this country and her citizens rich again, we were all on board and we all voted for President Donald Trump. But the Epstein issue is a different one, because the Epstein issue doesn't have to deal with the economy and Joe Biden's bad economic policy. It doesn't have to deal with the border and Joe Biden's lack of desire to enforce laws and the Democrats' plan to flood the country with new voters. None of that. That's neither here nor there. Epstein was the symbol of the deep state. It was the symbol of the elites. It was the symbol of the worst members of ruling society, the ruling class. It was a symbol of the baddest of the bad, people that did unspeakable things to young girls for money in a private island where there was no law, there was no order, and they all kept it to themselves. They all kept it secret. And this horrible, disgusting guy, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, they were the purveyors of debauchery for the power players in the New World Order. Basically, that's what it was. That's what it was. That's what they did. And everybody knew it, and everybody wanted it unsealed. Everybody wanted to know the truth. Everyone wanted these people brought to justice. Everyone thought, man, draining the swamp, destroying the deep state, shutting down the New World Order, making sure that justice is done. This is the issue. This is it. If we can get those Epstein files unsealed, if we can get the Epstein files out there, if everybody can see just how horrible this guy was, and if we all know who was linked together in this terrible cavalcade of corruption and crime, and just criminal sexual deviancy, then man, that's going to topple the rest of them. It's like, you pull the Jenga block at the bottom and the whole tower comes falling down. And Jeffrey Epstein was that bottom Jenga block. Now, for whatever reason, we're not pulling that block out. It's still sitting there. Pam Bondi's still got it on her desk. FBI, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, they're saying this guy killed himself, just like everyone's been telling you. And Donald Trump says, move on. Donald Trump says, we're not talking about it anymore. Meanwhile, a lot of people are saying blame Pam Bondi. Matt Gaetz, who a lot of folks were like, should have been, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Matt Gaetz, who everybody was like, man, this is the guy we want for Attorney General. And look, I'll be honest with you, I was one of them. When I heard Matt Gaetz was being touted or was being floated for Attorney General, I was probably more excited than any single man should be over another man getting a job. but I was excited. I thought this is going to be great. This is what we need. This is the answer to our prayers. Didn't work out that way. Why? Well, because Matt Gaetz has a lot of enemies, and those enemies didn't want Matt Gaetz doing exactly what Matt Gaetz was going to do. But he went on his show yesterday and he went to defend Pam Bondi as the greatest attorney general
by the Department of Justice. President Trump never stopped building a business empire, a media empire, a political empire. We believe he has exactly the team to maximize success. Let's start with Pam Bondi. The Attorney General always takes a lot of flack in any administration, but look at what she has accomplished. The Bondi team successfully litigated away the judicial coup of nationwide injunctions. They did that. They won that for us. They have created the legal infrastructure for highly effective deportations. She's got the cartels self-deporting. She has targeted the criminals and the gang networks. Attorney General Pam Bondi is a star and has our full admiration and support. To those who don't share my enthusiasm, look at how far we've come. Attorney General Jeff Sessions is the reason Hillary Clinton got away with everything. The statute of limitations is passed to hold her accountable. Thanks, Jeff. He got the unceremonious beating he deserved on the way out the door from Senator Tommy Tuberville. After Sessions, we got Bill Barr. AG Barr is the reason legitimate questions about the 2020 election went uninvestigated by the Department of Justice. I personally know of cases Bill Barr shut down that related to voter fraud that could have told us a lot more about the networks and the people who are trying to destabilize our elections and our voting process. You don't think you're getting all the answers you want on Epstein? We never got the answers on an election that resulted in a dementia ward escapee being president for 4 years. After Bill Barr was Jeff Rosen. He was the acting attorney general. He allowed MAGA grandmothers to be hunted like Pam Bondi is hunting MS-13. Pam Bondi is the best attorney general Donald Trump has had by a factor of 10,000. And anyone who disagrees with me is welcome to come on this show and choose their fighter. Which Trump AG would you replace Pam Bondi with? Barr? Sessions? Rosen? She's the best, and we appreciate her service. And at the FBI, some have suggested that they aren't keen on cash anymore. Look at where we've been at the FBI. It used to be a dumpster fire. During the prior Trump administration, we had James Comey. We had to deal with Christopher Wray, and now we get Kash Patel. Kash is rounding up actual criminals, not spying on political opponents. That is the reset the FBI needed. I have every confidence that this administration will continue their outstanding work, and that any tension that erupts is a consequence of strong voices and deep love of country.
All right, so Matt Gaetz is saying Pam Bondi, when compared to all of Donald Trump's other attorneys general, is the best. And no, nobody's going to argue that. Nobody's going to argue that we want Bill Barr back. Nobody's going to argue that Jeff Sessions, who recused himself like the hour after he swore his oath of office, nobody's going to argue that compared to Jeff Sessions or Rosenblum or whatever his name, Rosenberg, or Bill Barr. No one's going to argue that we want those people back. And you sure, when you compare Pam Bondi to any one of them, this is a dream scenario. But the question isn't, is she the best of who's been here before? The question is she the best of who we could have now? And Matt Gaetz, unfortunately, is not Senate confirmable. We can't have him. And he's reiterating that fact with that monologue. He's also reiterating the fact that Pam Bondi and Kash Patel know what they're doing. And it seems again like you now have two factions. I don't know if he was approached by Donald Trump and his administration to go on OAN and say, hey, can you like settle everybody down because we're sick and tired of hearing about this? But the more people are told not to, and this is indicative not just of Republicans, not just of MAGA, but this is indicative of anybody who really is, I mean, I would say anybody who is a true patriotic, make America great again, America first kind of person. Whenever somebody in authority tells you not to do something or not to question them, that really, it like lights stuff. It makes you want to do it more. You know, it's that whole Florida man mentality. You know, that hold my beer mentality. It's like, oh, you don't think I can do that? Hold my beer. Oh, you think it's time for me to be quiet? You ain't heard nothing yet. Oh, you think it's time for me to stop asking questions? Well, sit down and get a pen, because I just got a whole bunch more questions, starting with, why are you telling me to stop asking questions? What happens when the administration takes an issue like Jeffrey Epstein and tries to not settle it, not explain it, not share information on it, but to stifle it? That's when questions pop up. And when you start to see these prominent figures in Donald Trump's world, like Dinesh D'Souza, Matt Gaetz, Charlie Kirk, saying these things that sometimes are misinterpreted, other times are completely on the level, it's going to make even more questions. Like, the more you fight it, the harder it's going to get to be for you to do anything about it. And even Laura Loomer is calling for a press conference. Laura Loomer was like, we got to have a press conference. Laura Loomer is probably one of Donald Trump's strongest outside the administration or outside of government proponents. And she's worked diligently. She's been working to get Pam Bondi out of there. She worked to get Mike Waltz, our good buddy, out of there. And he's now at the Senate getting his UN hearings, or undergoing his UN hearing so that he can become the next ambassador to the UN. But she's out there saying, we need a press conference. We need like a 9-hour press conference. Let Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and everyone else come out and let us ask the questions. Just like Megyn Kelly said. Let's get it all out on the table and let's end this. Let's get Ghislaine Maxwell to testify. Let's end this. I don't think either one of those things, by the way, are ever going to happen. And that's just going to lead to more questions. And the big question I have is, because I'm running for Congress, how does this affect the midterm elections? And I'm not saying that because I want to be selfish. I mean, I'm a little selfish. Everybody's a little bit selfish. You should be. Oprah Winfrey always said, hey, you need to start with yourself. Make sure you take care of yourself first. So that's what I'm doing. But the fact of the matter is that, look, there's going to be a midterm election. And we need to make sure that as Republicans, we contain and we control the House of Representatives. The Senate will be fine. A stronger majority in the Senate would be welcome, but any majority in the Senate is doable. Let's just say that. And I think we're solidly going to hold the Senate. Donald Trump's not going anywhere because it's a midterm election and it's not the general election for president. But that leaves the House of Representatives, where there's a very, very slim majority, like the slimmest of slim majorities. Man, we can't lose. We lose one Thomas Massey. We lose one, somebody else, we're totally screwed. We can't, if Marjorie Taylor Greene goes the other way on a bill because she's mad or wakes up on the wrong side of the bed or menopausal or whatever's going on with her, it doesn't matter. We're going to lose the House of Representatives. So we need to make sure that we maintain that. And my concern, as I think a lot of people should be concerned, is how does this Epstein issue affect the midterms? Because President Donald Trump was on a massive roll. 6 months of winning. Iran's nuclear program destroyed in what was a very popular attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. Wasn't really the Democrats. They had the weakest arguments about Donald Trump's attack on those facilities. They couldn't even come up with any kind of excuse as to why it was bad. Some of them were even arguing that he should have hit him harder. You didn't hit him harder. Remember that? You didn't. They're going to have nuclear capabilities in a couple of months. None of that was true, by the way. But when you have the Democrats saying your unjustified, congressionally non-supported action in Iran wasn't, strong enough, then you know that you've won, especially if you're a Republican. He had the one big beautiful bill that got passed on July 4th. He signed it at the White House. It was amazing. We all celebrated for like 2 days, and then bam, this whole Jeffrey Epstein thing imploded. And now, looking toward the midterms, this is a dark cloud that is going to continue to haunt. And the Democrats know it, and the Democrats are using it, and the Democrats are campaigning on it, and the Democrats are in Congress right now, and the Democrats are trying to get the Jeffrey Epstein files unsealed, because then they'll look like heroes. And if the Democrats look like heroes, that's bad for Republicans in the midterms in congressional districts all over the country. I'm trying my best to keep a conservative constitutional Republican in office in Florida's 5th district, and that constitutional conservative is me. And I'm trying to oust the guy who's there now because he's not constitutional, he's not conservative, and he's really just in it for himself. He's not representing the people of Florida's 5th district, he's representing John Rutherford. He's been there forever. He's done absolutely nothing. He doesn't hold any town halls. He's gotten really wealthy. Meanwhile, nothing back here ever changes. And oh yeah, if you take a peep at his voting record, he's more liberal than Liz Cheney. He got a 52% voting record. That's an F. That's an F by every conservative organization that tracks voting records. The $350 billion we've sent to Ukraine, he's voted for it every single time. 7 times he voted to send money to Ukraine. You know how many times I voted to send money to Ukraine? 0. And I know what you're saying, but Mark Kaye, you're not in Congress. Guess what? When I'm in Congress, you know how many times I'll vote to send money to Ukraine? 0. Because we don't need to, and Donald Trump proved that. Anyway, markkforcongress.com. There's a link in the description of this video, and if you would like to help me, if you would like to help Americans continue to save the House of Representatives, to have strong conservative leadership in the House of Representatives, then I'm gonna ask you to go to that website sometime today and make whatever donation you can to help the cause. markkforcongress.com, or like I said, click the link in the description of this video, and we'll get to it. Speaking of these horrible representatives in Congress who need to go, here's what the Democrats are running on, okay? The Democrats right now are running on that ICE agents are terrorists, which is weird because the deportation is popular. It's weird because the deportation is effective. It's weird because very few regular American voters wake up every day and go, you know what? There's too much deportation going on in this country. We've all said our taxes are too high. We've all said, man, there's too much crime in this world. We've all said, golly, gas prices are insane in the last 4 years. We've all said that. And Donald Trump's working to fix all of those. But I don't think anybody's ever said, you know what? There's just too many gosh darn deportations. Nobody wakes up and goes, man, they deported another 1,500 criminal migrants from gangs like MS-13 and Tren de Aragua. That's too many. I mean, some people do, the Democrats do, but most American voters do not. And the most American voters can agree, Democrat, Republican, moderate, whatever you are, libertarian, Wiccan, I don't care what you are. But most people agree that the deportations are good, that deportations work, and that the deportations need to continue. And that Tom Homan is not a villain. He's not a supervillain. He's a superhero. And that the men and women from ICE are also superheroes. But for whatever reason, the Democrats have made this one of their key components or one of their key agenda items in running for re-election in the midterms. Democrats have decided that ICE is the enemy, that ICE is bad, that ICE agents are Nazis and Gestapo and terrorists and cowards, and that they need to be uncovered, that they need to be doxxed, and that they need to be defunded and destroyed. And the latest to join this cult of anti-ICE-ness is Boston Mayor, what's her name? Wu. Michelle Wu? Is that her name? Anyway, woohoo. And Mayor Wu, you may remember, she's the one that held the racist Christmas party where she didn't invite any whites. She was like, if you're white and you work for the government or for the city, you can't come to the party. But anyone who's non-white, any black, Hispanic, Latino, Asian person who works for the government, come to my Christmas party. All you white Boston employees, you're not allowed. That was a big thing. She's still mayor in Boston, and now she's referring to ICE agents or comparing ICE agents to Nazis.
I don't know of any police department that routinely wears masks. We know that there are other groups that routinely wear masks. NSC 131 routinely wears masks.
Mayor, just to clarify, are you comparing ICE, you said, to NSC 131, the neo-Nazi group? Are you comparing them to a neo-Nazi group?
What I said is that Boston Police and no police department that I know of at the local level routinely wears masks.
Yeah, and then she compared them to a Nazi. That's exactly what she did. She compared them to a Nazi group that wears masks, and then she said, what I said was this. The fact of the matter is a lot of police officers and a lot of police agencies wear masks. If you've ever seen SWAT, they wear masks. If you've ever seen crowd control, any of those SWAT teams or any of the police departments that are in charge of anti-riot gear, they put a mask on, they put a face shield, and that face shield is there to protect them from tear gas and rocks and rubble and attacks and spitting, all of those things. They wear masks because they're protecting themselves from harm. The harm that can be caused by the people that they're trying to, keep in line, keep in order, arrest. And just like a clear face shield worn by some kind of riot policeman or SWAT team member, a mask that ICE agents use to protect their identity is exactly the same thing. It protects their identity from online crazies. It protects them from getting doxxed. It protects their families from getting harassed or attacked. It's a protective garment, just like a bulletproof vest. If you have an agent who wears a bulletproof vest so that if they get shot, they don't die, guess what? A mask on your face is the exact same thing. It serves the exact same purpose. It's a life-saving measure in many of these cases, and that's why they wear them. But all of these, and she's just the latest in the long line. Remember Dan Goldman from New York? He introduced legislation to keep these people from wearing masks.
I will be introducing a bill that will prevent Homeland Security officers from hiding or concealing their identities and wearing masks, because we don't live in a country, an authoritarian country, where we have secret police who are masked, who are intimidating, who are scaring people. That's the stuff of authoritarian states. That is not the stuff of that's not how the United States operates.
By the way, they're not secret police. They're actual police. They're just police. We know who they are. We know they're ICE. They're ICE agents. They're federally funded, and they go out and they arrest criminals. But they do so in a way that is not putting their own lives and the lives of those they love in danger. They're protecting themselves while protecting others, and that is their right to do. Everybody, even police officers, have a right to protect themselves, and those masks do just that. Jerry Nadler said the same thing.
But these people are wearing masks and are totally unidentified, and the question is why. The question is why. It's completely improper, and again, one has to assume they're hiding something or they're hiding misbehavior, because otherwise, why would they be wearing masks and denying their identities? Also,
why is Jerry Nadler so short? That's my big question. Why is Jerry Nadler so short? He's hiding behind a podium. That guy. I mean, I know he's not hiding behind a podium. I think that's just his height, but it's ridiculous. And again, the question is why. We've answered that over and over again. Tim Walz, remember, he referred to these people that are protecting you from foreign invaders as Gestapo.
Donald Trump's modern day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets.
I'm sorry, Gestapo, because he couldn't even pronounce the word. If you're going to insult somebody, use a word that you can pronounce. Which is why we call him Pansy or Tampon Tim, because those are very, very easy words to pronounce. Who else? Oh, Jayapal. Remember Priyam Jayapal or whatever? She said this.
What is deranged and cruel and outrageous is that literally we are seeing ICE agents. I assume they're ICE agents. They say they are. They don't have any identification. They're wearing masks. They're in plain clothes. They are coming and kidnapping and disappearing people.
They are? They're coming and kidnapping and disappearing people? There's a difference between arresting somebody and kidnapping somebody. There's a difference between, and by the way, that's just a flat out lie, and she was allowed to get away with it. And again, I call on our buddy John Rutherford, who sits on the ethics committee, and I have to ask him once again, where are the ethics complaints? Where are the investigations into Dan Goldman, who's referring to federal law enforcement agents as Nazis and secret police? Priyam Jayapal is lying to Americans and saying that these people are kidnapping and disappearing, when really all they're doing is arresting criminals. Jerry Nadler, who I bring him up on an ethics investigation just because I feel like he's going to the I think he's going to the buffet at the congressional cafeteria way too many times. All of these people, why is nobody bringing up ethics violations against them? Where are the complaints? Where is there the sense of right and wrong in the House of Representatives? It's nowhere to be seen. Not to mention the Senate. We played you this clip yesterday. This was, what's his name? Senator Padilla from California.
And what if I was outside of Home Depot? Because I like to do some work around the house, not dressed in a suit. Would I be a target of ICE enforcement under Tom Homan? Probably. And it's just wrong. It's not just due process rights that have become the concern, but racial.
Yeah. So he's like, look, if I were, by the way, and I still don't believe he does any work around, that guy doesn't work around the house. If that guy does work around the house, it's like, I can't, maybe he's the kind of guy that, will pick up sticks after a bad storm, but I don't think he is. I feel like he's got somebody that he calls and yells at to come and pick up the stick. He just seems like that kind of elitist scumbag. Anyway, so he's out there saying, if I were at Home Depot in plain clothes because I'm Hispanic, ICE would come and grab me. And Prema Jayapal's like, ICE is going to come around and just disappear people and kidnap people willy-nilly. And all of these things are happening because ICE is bad and ICE is Secret Service and ICE is Donald Trump's Gestapo. And they're just trying to, I don't even know what they're trying to do. None of this, by the way, has been a secret. It's the weirdest argument that the Democrats are coming up with. First of all, who is it? Well, you know what? Let's start with this. First of all, it's no secret. Donald Trump, when he ran, said, we're going to deport the millions of illegals that came here illegally in the Biden administration. He said there's 25 million illegal immigrants living in this country. We're going to start with the most dangerous ones. We're going to get them out of here. He said they're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live here. He said there's MS-13 gang members and Tren de Aragua gang members. And they're taking over apartment complexes in Aurora, Colorado and other places. And they're killing young girls and women on the street and doing terrible things to their bodies and shoving them into storm drains. And we're going to get all of those people out. They're bringing in drugs and fentanyl. We're going to get all those people out of there. This should not be a surprise. Anybody who watched a single Donald Trump rally heard all of these things over and over and over and over again. Anyone who watched any President Donald Trump rally or attended a rally or saw the debates or anything, anyone who was awake for 2024 knows that Donald Trump said we're going to have the largest massive deportation effort in history. And he pulled Tom Homan, fun fact, was like the second person he hired. I don't know if you remember this. Go back to the transition. First person he hired, Susie Wiles, chief of staff. Why? Well, you can't hire anybody without a chief of staff. So he picked Susie Wiles and said, you're my chief of staff. Second person he hired, Tom Homan. Why? Because the border, stupid. That was the number one issue he ran on. And he needed a border czar who'd actually been to the border, who may have actually been to Europe too, who knew what he was doing, who was former ICE, who could put together some kind of plan to get these people out of here and to make sure that we did it in an orderly fashion, a legal fashion, and very quickly. And Tom Homan got to work. He hit the ground running on day one. We started to see those deportations, man, and they have not let up. And he did it the right way because every single time the Democrats take them to court, every single time there's some kind of injunction, every single time something happens, what happens to Tom Homan? He gets to go right back to work. Donald Trump is vindicated. The courts are overturning these injunctions. They're doing it by the book. They're doing it legally. They're not doing it illegally. They're not hiding their faces. They're not disappearing anybody or kidnapping anyone. And any one of these Democrats who says otherwise should be hauled up in front of a committee and questioned. They should be censured. They should be given their just reward, desserts, if you will. Although Jerry Nadler looks like he's just had dessert every day of his life. He's just had too many desserts at this point. That's all I'm saying. And then the second thing is, this is weird for another reason. Think about who this issue is important to. Think about the issue. Illegal immigrants being deported. Okay? Who is that important to? Well, illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants are probably the ones that are most directly affected by them being deported. And illegal immigrants are not allowed to vote. So why, heading into the midterms, would the Democrats be making the deportation of illegal immigrants such a big deal? Well, because maybe some of these illegal immigrants are voting and maybe they're voting for Democrats. Or maybe they're still trying to push amnesty to the point where they know these are going to be future voters. Instead of going out for actual registered voters, actual Americans who live here in this country legally and work here in this country legally, instead of going out to those people and saying, hey, how can we get you to vote for us? Hey, how can we make your lives better? Hey, what is it we could do for you every single day that would make you trust us with your government? Instead of doing that, they're like, oh, we got to save these illegals because one day they may be the only people voting for us. It's a losing issue. You're supposed to, I mean, if you're going to pander to somebody who can at least vote for you. That's their plan, though, for the midterms. It's really kind of weird. I don't get it. I don't understand it. But again, they're Democrats, and I don't really get or understand a lot of things that the Democrats do. They also continue to lose in court. This is the other thing, too. Donald Trump he's stacking dubs when it comes to SCOTUS. And the Supreme Court of the United States of America handed him yet another win yesterday when it came to the layoffs in the Department of Education. Laying off people in the Department of Education is well within Donald Trump's authority. And even though the Democrats tried to stop the Department of Education from being disbanded or shrunk, they failed. Because the Supreme Court said, yeah, Donald Trump can literally fire anybody he wants for any reason whatsoever.
Just start with your reaction to the news from the Supreme Court, essentially allowing your department to continue on with the mission of shrinking it.
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me. Indeed, I was very pleased with the ruling from the Supreme Court, because what we did when we first came in was to take a look at the department, to take a look at what could have been, just too heavy in personnel. We weren't just trying to make radical cuts just to shrink the size of the department. We viewed it with exactly the right eye as, I think, an executive coming into a company to see what functions are needed, how many people we needed to do that, etc. So we're very careful in planning how those cuts were made. And I was very pleased that the Supreme Court did give us the ability to continue to do that and to operate the agency efficiently and to get all the work done that we needed to get done to meet all of our statutory requirements. And that's exactly what we're doing, and we were proving that we could do it at the time when we got the order that we couldn't proceed. So we're very happy to now be able to do that work and to do it well.
Okay, so we got Linda McMahon, who's in charge of the Department of Education, and she's saying, we are so glad, man. We are so excited that that this court ruling went through and that the Supreme Court upheld the ruling, so that now we can begin to or continue to dismantle the Department of Education, continue to make these cuts, continue to get rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse, and hand the power back to the states, because the states do it better. States do it better. Just like everything else, the states do it better. The states know what their students need. The states know who to provide it to, who can provide it better than anyone. They know how and where the students learn the best, and the curriculum that those students are going to benefit from. And if you give it back to the states, then what you're going to see is competitive states doing the most with that money to make sure that they're getting the best students. And parents are going to either move or lobby their own states to do better. People are going to lose their jobs in government. All of that because of the way that this education system will be handled. When you have 50 unique education systems, 51 if you include the District of Columbia, you're going to see them all rise. All of them will get better. And if they don't, they're going to lose out. They're going to lose. There are parents out there who will move from Mississippi, let's just say, and I'm not picking on Mississippi, but they're historically at the bottom of the barrel. Move from Mississippi to, I don't know, Oklahoma or Texas or Florida or somewhere else where education is much better, because the states are going to be running it. They're going to realize that is an added incentive to people. A better state education system will bring in more business. That brings in more money. That brings in a bigger, stronger economy, and that makes everything hunky-dory. And that's exactly what's going to happen. Now, the Department of Education, is it going to be dismantled altogether? I hope so. Right now, I know they're cutting about half of the people that work there, and then they're going to go through and they're going to slowly but surely make sure they can get rid of the rest of them. In the meantime, we've got way more money coming in from all kinds of other places, like, for example, investing. There's another event today, or there was an event this morning, President Donald Trump in Pennsylvania with Senator McCormick and Mike Rowe and a bunch of other rich people. And they were talking about more manufacturing jobs, more industrialization, AI jobs coming to Pennsylvania. And the Keystone State was celebrating. Mike Rowe I'm a big fan of Mike Rowe, so I'm glad, dirty jobs and the way I heard it and all that kind of stuff. And Mike Rowe was there, and it's always great to hear Mike Rowe talk about pretty much anything. Like, this guy could just read the phone book and it'd be fun to listen to, but listen to him talking about manufacturing and President Donald Trump's vision for America coming true.
I'm rooting for President Trump, too. If he reshores and we reindustrialize, you're talking about 2 or 3 million jobs in manufacturing that currently don't exist. You probably have the numbers better than me, sir, but I think in China,
5 million.
5
million.
Okay, well, open jobs in manufacturing right now.
We've got to train them. We've got to train them. We have to train. That is fundamental. Every community college.
Yep.
Right? We've got to bring it back to high schools.
Yep.
Right? They've got to train. They've got to teach. They've got to show people that a great technician's job starts at $75,000, ends at $200,000.
That's right.
You don't need to go to college. You're working in the coolest factory in the world. HVAC is not fixing your air conditioning. It's a closed-loop system on the coolest technology system you've ever seen in your life.
Amen.
And the people who work in these factories.
He gets it. He absolutely gets it. Look, it's only a matter of national security, right? And I would say, you mentioned, I read 70, then I heard 90 billion. It's going to be 100 billion by the end of the day. A lot of money is going to come flying into this state. What I would propose, with all humility, is that somebody somewhere carve just a little sliver out of that, a fraction of a percent, and allocate it for better storytelling. Our country needs a national resource. Pennsylvania can lead this charge, where any parent, any guidance counselor, any kid who is curious enough to explore the opportunities we're talking about can go to a destination and see people who look like them and talk like them and remind them of them prospering as a result of mastering a skill that's in demand. If we just dismiss that as PR, then we're just going to keep pushing the same rock up the same hill. I'm just here to say, it doesn't take a ton, but it takes some, because a pretty good communicator's coming here this afternoon, I think, who understands the importance of getting the story right. Yeah.
That's Mike Rowe, who hit the, this is something that I tout this all the time. And Donald Trump knows it. And if you voted for President Donald Trump, you know it. And if you've ever purchased anything or made a decision based on something that you've seen on television or heard on the radio or a podcast or whatever, you know it too. That storytelling is one of the most important functions of our government, and that so many people do it badly. The reason President Donald Trump was able to catapult himself back into office in a historic way was because he could tell stories better than anyone, and he would go out and he would tell them over and over again. And he would tell them to whoever listened, and he would go on podcasts and he would tell stories even more. And people love a good story, and there's nothing more descriptive than a good story. And if you want these manufacturing jobs filled, if you want people to go into HVAC, if you want them to go into building an AI factory, if you want them to realize that there's great blue collar jobs that pay immensely well, you don't have to go into debt by going to college for several years. You can have a fantastic living, buy a house, do all these amazing things, raise a family, and be a productive member of society. If you want to do all of that, that's great. But it's got to start with a story. And it's not PR. It's not just marketing. It's not an ad campaign. You need people out there like Mike Rowe, like others, who can tell the tale. Tell a story, talk to these people, explain to them the benefits, and then let them decide for themselves. That's exactly, by the way, what I do every single day. I'm here every day podcasting, and I'm out here every single day, and I'm telling you stories, and I'm sharing with you. The stories are real. I don't make these stories up, but they're real, and I explain them to you in a way that hopefully you realize there's truth out there and there's fiction, and it's important to know what's right and what's wrong. And whatever business you're in, growing your business, making more money, increasing your net worth, increasing your value, whatever it is, if you want to level up or expand, or what's the other word? There's another buzzword that everyone always uses. It's what is it? I always forget. But whatever it is that you're doing, it requires you to contact people and communicate a great story. And tomorrow night, I'm actually going to help you with that. Tomorrow night, I'm hosting Podcast Profits Live. And Podcast Profits Live is one of my favorite things that we've ever done. It's one of the most popular extracurricular opportunities we've ever given to Catriots and people who listen to this show. Because professional podcasting, and I'm not talking about politics. I mean, I'm not talking about, you can do a political podcast. Many people do. But professional podcasting is all about storytelling. It's about communicating with people in a way that they enjoy. It's about talking to people about things that interest them. And it's about showing people a better way. So no matter what your business is, it can and will grow if you incorporate a podcast. If you are looking to enhance your financial background or your bottom line or just make more money or create cash flow, podcasting is the single best way to do it. It's your marketing message. It's your advertising message. It's your community building message. It's your mantra and your mission. And it's all done in one fell swoop. And it's so easy to do. You can do it for free. So tomorrow, Wednesday, July 16th at 8 p.m. Eastern time, I will be bringing you a free edition of Podcast Profits Live. You have to sign up. I'll teach you exactly how and why, which is important. I podcast because the why of the podcast, a lot of people don't even realize why podcasting is the ultimate form of social media. It's the ultimate form of communication. It really is. And I'll tell you all about that. I'll show you the easiest way to record a podcast and distribute it for free. You can get started in an hour. If you've ever wanted a podcast and thought, oh, it's so difficult, it's not. It takes an hour. If you have an hour, I'll show you podcast in an hour. That's what I should call this thing. Maybe I'll change the name. Repurposing your podcast into a multimedia empire. If you'll notice, not only do I podcast, but I live stream and I post on YouTube and I post on Twitter and I write books and I have merchandise. I have all this stuff. It all comes from podcasting, and we'll detail all that about as well. And then, as Mike Rowe said, why you must have a podcast to succeed in the new golden age. And I'm going to play that clip probably again too, because it's so true. It's all about storytelling. If you can tell the story, if you have a potential customer or client or whatever, and you can tell them the story of how you help people and why you help people and how you can help them and why they need your help and how much greater their lives are going to be after, man, your life, if you had a podcast, it would solve all of your social media marketing needs. It would build new clients and customers. It would give you a funnel of fantastic leads that you could then harvest. And it would introduce you to a whole bunch of people who are looking for your help. And when you help them, they'll pay you. It's really simple. That's a story that you could tell to people about your business. I'm going to teach you how to do it. The link is podcastprofitspro.com, podcastprofitspro.com. Or if you are so inclined, just go to the description of this video, pardon me while I belch, description of this video, click on the link and register. It's free, like I said, but you do have to register to be part of the program. You do have to be to register to become part of the class online tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm very, very, very excited about it. Something else that happened yesterday, which shouldn't go unchecked, is CNN. Ana Navarro on CNN, who's also on The View. Ana Navarro called a guy out for being white. And then when he accused her of being a racist, the entire panel, including Abby Phillips, came to her rescue and explained to this dude why her singling him out for being white was not racist. Listen to this.
Also, I want to respond to you saying that I was hyperbolic when I talked about a reign of terror.
Because that is hyperbolic.
No, it might be hyperbolic for you as a white man.
Oh, okay.
It's certainly not hyperbolic for me as a
racist.
Latino. No, I'm not being racist.
It's incredible to dismiss my opinion for being a white
No,
man.
I'm not dismissing your opinion. I am telling you that the Latino community, the brown community in America.
Speak in one voice.
Okay, well, let me speak with my voice. I mean, you said I was being hyperbolic. Let me respond.
Racially, sure.
I'm not. You being a white man as an insult?
When you invoke it to dismiss my
being
opinion,
a white man as an insult?
When you invoke it,
do you think Latinos are living under circumstances that other people may not be right now in this country?
We're about to have a whole conversation about that very thing. But I just want to make a point that, Brad, all she's saying is that her view of the situation is different from yours. I don't think that's an insult.
She basically said I'm wrong because I'm a white man.
She just said I see it.
I see it differently.
She said I see it differently from you, which is not an insult. It's not, and it's also not a racial insult.
It's also not an explanation why I'm wrong.
But we have a lot more to discuss on this very topic. So
okay, now was it racist? Is this guy overreacting? Was she just being? Was she just making a comparison? Look, the fact of the matter is, if he had said, as a Latino woman, you're being hyperbolic because you're a Latino or Latina. Had he said that, they would have exploded. Had he said you're being hyperbolic because you're seeing this as a Latina, that would have been racist. That would have been cut to commercial type crazy. That would have been lunatics all over CNN just heads exploding. There would have been brains and bits of skull everywhere. But she can clearly say, as a white man, it's not hyperbolic. And all of a sudden, she's not a racist. By dismissing him as a white man, which could also be sexualized. And the rest of the panel comes to her defense. No, she wasn't being racist. No, she wasn't singling you out for being a white man. She just said, as a white man, you have no clue what you're talking about. You have also, this whole thing started apparently because she called the Trump administration a reign of terror, which I don't care if you're white, black, Hispanic, yellow, purple. I don't care if you're an alien, illegal, or otherwise. I don't care if you're transgender, bigender, cisgender, mom gender, whatever. Calling Donald Trump's administration a reign of terror is hyperbolic. There's not even an argument about that. If you call the presidency of the United States a reign of terror, you're using hyperbole. I mean, that is the actual reign of terror. There's no comparison. I mean, we live in one of the freest, most abundant, safest societies we've ever lived in, with an incredible booming economy. We've got a strong border. We've got an amazing military. We have opportunity for everybody that wants it. And to sit around and call it hyperbolic is, or to call it the reign of terror, I'm sorry. Not only is that stupid, but it's 100% hyperbole, and it's wrong. And he was right to call her out on it. But he didn't say, you're being hyperbolic because you're a Latino. You're being hyperbolic because you're a leftist. You're being hyperbolic because you're a massive Karen. He didn't say any of those things. He said, you're being hyperbolic. And that's a fact. That is 100% true. Donald Trump's administration is nothing like the reign of terror. And anyone on any side of the aisle who says so is being hyperbolic, no matter what their race is. But that's just CNN, and that's how they roll. Listen, if you missed the 47 Daily podcast today, I would definitely go back and listen to it because we had some really great stuff about some other Donald Trump wins. We talked about NATO and what's going on with NATO and how Donald Trump is bypassing Ukraine by giving weapons. Not giving, selling weapons to NATO, which is a nice plus. It's nice that we have in this country, once again, a president who doesn't just give stuff away. A president who says, we'll be happy to help you protect yourself from Russia, but you need to pay us for the weapons that we're creating because, we have to pay for these weapons. The United States government doesn't get free weapons from Raytheon and Boeing. These missiles that are from these munitions companies, they're not given to the country free of charge. Everybody involved, from the CEOs of the company to the salespeople to the manufacturers, everybody, the marketing departments, all of those people get paid. And they get paid by the government, and they get paid handsomely by the government, and some would say way too much by the government. And the government money, we all know, is really your money and my money. It's all taxpayer dollars. The taxpayer money goes to the corporations that make all of these munitions, and then those munitions for years now have been given to Ukraine for free. Just given to Ukraine for free. They didn't get any money. Joe Biden and the Democrats and the Republicans voted to give $350 million worth of armaments to Ukraine. And we didn't get that money back. That was $350 million of your tax dollars that poof, disappeared, and you'll never ever see it again. It went literally right up in smoke. It went into rifles in Ukraine that shot bullets at Russians. It went into missiles and drones in Ukraine that fired into Vladimir Putin's territory. It went to defensive measures, all that kind of stuff. And what happened in the end is that the money that we never got anything for it. Well, Donald Trump has flipped the script, and he said we're not paying anymore. He said we'll give NATO whatever they want, but NATO's got to come up with some money. And so the European Union and Canada have come up with a plan to purchase weapons from the United States, and the United States will send the weapons to NATO, and NATO will decide where they go, which means they're going to send them to Ukraine. But if NATO countries in Europe, like Germany and Poland and France and Great Britain, if they're all worried about, Norway and Sweden, if they're all worried about Russia invading, if they're all worried about Putin, starting to cross their borders and start taking over, reclaiming the territory he believes rightly belongs to Russia from Poland and Germany and other spots like that. If that's the case, if that's their big concern, then they should really be paying for the weapons themselves. And so now what's happening is Donald Trump is collecting on that. He's saying, I'll send you anything you want, but you're paying for it. You're buying it. And this is how it works. And so our taxpayer dollars will not be going to Ukraine anymore. He's doing it, however, because he doesn't like what Vladimir Putin's been doing, and he wants Vladimir Putin to stop. So the best way to do that is to continue arming Ukraine so that Vladimir Putin knows that this war is going to continue raging. There's one other thing I wanted to say, which I'm going to be honest with you. This is something that really, I mean, when you think about Donald Trump and the Nobel Peace Prize, for example, or Donald Trump as a peacemaker, they always say Donald Trump's a peacemaker. Donald Trump just wants peace. This clip that came yesterday from the NATO meeting, I want you to listen to what President Donald Trump said and tell me one other person in the world who has said the same thing.
We should have had a deal done a long time ago. But it just keeps going on and on and on. And every night people are dying. A lot of Russian soldiers are dying, by the way. And a lot of Ukrainian soldiers too. But a lot of Russian soldiers are dying.
Look at that. A lot of Russian soldiers are dying. And a lot of Ukrainian soldiers. It's not the first time he said this, but he's the only person I've ever heard say it. I've never heard a single other person, senator, congressman, world leader, ambassador, nobody has ever said, we have to stop this war because Russians are dying. There are Russian men and women, soldiers, young people in Russia, and they are dying every single week by the thousands. Why? Because Vladimir Putin keeps sending them to fight the Ukrainians, and there are Ukrainians dying. And Donald Trump's like, why are we doing this? Why is everybody just killing each other? Don't you want it to stop? Nobody seems to want to. Nobody in NATO has said Russians are dying. Nobody in Canada hasn't said Russians are dying. Not a single person that's ever been involved. Vladimir Zelensky has never said Ukrainians and Russians are dying. It's a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad thing. They've all just been fighting this war endlessly. Now they're going to have to pay for it. And if they want Russians to continue to die, it's going to cost them a pretty penny. And Donald Trump is the only person I've ever heard say anything about the adversary. Sure, Russia's the aggressor. Sure, Putin's a bad guy. Sure, they invaded Ukraine. Sure, this is a bad thing. But Donald Trump is saying there's still people. And these people deserve to live. It's really, really incredible. Hey, special thanks to a couple of our super chats. Look at this. We got some super chats today. And I forgot to read them yesterday, so I'm definitely going to read them today. Julie Toomey dropping a $5 super chat and saying, happy 1 year of Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, Mark and Katriots. Here's to many, many more. Don't forget to join Where Are Those Pickles on Facebook. Where Are Those Pickles? The official, unofficial group of Katriots everywhere. Julie, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all your help too. And props to Julie Toomey, because she's not only a Katriot, she's also one of our moderators. She's a member of the Mod Squad, and she does incredible things every single day to make sure that we are here. She does incredible things every single day to make sure that we are continuing this broadcast and that we can do what we want to do and bring you the truth and grow, which is our goal. So Julie, we definitely appreciate that. Christiane Haggerty, a $5 super chat. And she said what Julie said, which is great. So if to refresh your memory, Julie said, happy 1 year of Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. To Mark and the Katriots, here's to many, many more. Don't forget to join Where Are Those Pickles on Facebook. So Christiane Haggerty and Julie Toomey both saying the same thing. If you would like to leave us a super chat to celebrate our 1 year anniversary, which I totally forgot about, by the way, that's what happens. I'm not a big anniversary birthday kind of guy. I mean, my wedding anniversary, because, you know, that's bad news. But like my wife's always after me. It's like, what do you want for your birthday? I'm like, I don't really care. She's like, what do you want to do for your birthday? I'm like, I don't know. She goes, what are we having a party? Are we going out? Do you want to just have dinner at home? I'm like, I don't know. It's like a Monday. I have a show to do. That's my big concern. So I always forget these things. And yesterday I remembered it. Today I totally forgot about it. But yes, it was 1 year ago today that we relaunched Mark Kaye Saves the Republic after being unceremoniously fired for being way too conservative and entertaining from our radio station. We were released from our radio contract and told to kick rocks. And then after a brief battle in the courts, we revised Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, and it's now been 1 year. 1 year ago today, We were in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We were at the Republican National Committee, or convention rather. We were set up on the floor, and we were right across from Dan Bongino, not realizing that a year later, Dan Bongino would be the deputy director of the FBI and would be causing such commotion and tumult over the Epstein files. Man, what a difference a year made. If you told me a year ago when I set up next to Dan Bongino right across from me, it was me, Dan Bongino, who else was there? Yeah, PBS, NPR was there, and Mike Gallagher was there, and all of a sudden we were all broadcasting. We were all having a great time. It was such a great, exciting time, and I loved every minute of it. But if you told me that Dan Bongino would be the deputy director of the FBI and would be causing such commotion over the Epstein files not being released because President Donald Trump was president again, I wouldn't have believed any of that, except the part about Donald Trump being president again. That I would have believed. It was there, by the way, that we heard about JD Vance becoming, it was like day 3, and all of a sudden there was all this commotion and everyone was whispering, and we're like, what's going on? And it was JD Vance. JD Vance left Ohio in a motorcade. I'll never forget. Oh, JD Vance, a motorcade just left JD Vance's home in Ohio. He's headed to the airport. We think he's coming here. We think he's going to be the vice presidential pick. And everyone was like, JD Vance? Wait, what? In fact, I remember, this is a funny story. This is why I laugh sometimes. I mean, I laugh a lot at other people in the media. There was a show. I forget who it was. It was some radio show, and those guys are all out of touch. But there was some radio show, and it was around the corner, and I could hear the guy. Like every time I was broadcasting, I could hear him yelling into his microphone. And this guy, it was so funny. He literally, the day before, really, I think maybe hours before, was going through all of the people that potentially could be vice president. And gosh, I forget some of the names even. I think Tim Scott was on the list. I think Byron Donalds was on the list. I think Ben Carson was on the list. Kristi Noem, all these people. And JD Vance was on the list. And he goes, well, I think of all the people on the list, the least likely one for President Donald Trump to choose is JD Vance. And then he went through like a litany of reasons why JD Vance wasn't going to be the vice president. And then hours later, JD Vance was being rushed from his home in Ohio to Milwaukee so that he could accept the nomination of vice president of the United States along with President Donald Trump. So that was kind of a fun thing. I do remember that as well. Anyway, a lot of good times, and this year has been incredible. And I promise next year maybe we'll have a party or something. But Julie and Christiane, I appreciate both of your super chats. I appreciate all of the super chats we've gotten over the years. I appreciate everybody who supports the show. If you can't send a super chat or you just don't want to, just watch. You know, I had a guy yesterday. I was at a meeting of the Republican Liberty Caucus here in Duval County. And one of the guys came up to me and said, I watch your show every single day and I sit through all the commercials. You're welcome. I said, thank you. He goes, that's the only way I can support you. I watch your show and I sit through the commercials. And I said, that's all it takes. Watch the show, sit through the commercials, share the show, send it to people you know, send it to people you don't know. Do whatever you can. If you're listening to the podcast, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Make sure you set those notifications. Make sure whenever we go live, you're right here, because that's how we can continue to grow. And in the next year, you know, we're at 71,000 on YouTube, and we're at 50,000 on Rumble, and we're at 60,000 on X, and we're at 1 million on Facebook, and we're growing and growing and growing by leaps and bounds every single day. And we need to continue to grow. We need to continue to get bigger and bigger. We need to continue the momentum, because the enemy is continuing to their momentum. They're out there and they're trying to recruit. The enemy is out there trying to win back people that they lost and recruit new people. And we need to do whatever it is we can. We need to make sure that we're out there every single day, and that we are talking, and that we are fighting, and that we are arguing, and that we are pushing, and that we are learning, and that we are investigating, and that we are training, and that we are staying entertained and inspired and enlightened and all those other great things. Because there's going to be another battle. It's coming up soon. And every single day, something happens that maybe pushes us back a little bit. Something happens that dullens our blades. We got to keep them sharp because it's an ongoing battle. And we will, as Catriots, you, me, everybody else who listens and watches and supports this show, will continue to fight so we can save the Republic. 2 things. Don't forget, Podcast Profits Live. I'm urging you, if you've ever thought to yourself, I need a podcast, or if you've ever thought to yourself, I need more money, or I need to grow my business, or I just don't know what to do on social media to get more people to follow me or buy from me or become customers, this is your chance. It's free. I don't know how many more weeks I'm going to be doing this for free, probably a couple, but don't miss this one because this one's going to be good. This is like our third one, so we're really going to have it down. Podcast Profits Live. It's all free. Just click the button, save your free spot, fill in your information, and you'll be good to go. I'll send you the Zoom link immediately so you can get in on that and you can start preparing for tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Also, it's Tuesday, which means we're about to have a meeting of our Katriots Club. It's at katriots.com. It's a little extended broadcast, so if you'd like more of Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, if you want to hang out with some like-minded Katriots, you can go to katriots.com right now. We're going to kick it off in 3 minutes.